Any other questions or comments?
It's a good question, Chris, but not having been, not having necessarily been involved in discussions and, just getting this complete breakdown for the first time, it would have been nice to see this earlier, just in case there are questions. It's hard to digest all of this in our 10 minutes of discussion here. So that's all I'm saying. I don't see the reason that we need to rush to approve it.
I don't feel rushed.
In case there are other questions that do come up.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I'm saying.
That's fine.
Give us, the opportunity to look it over at least. I certainly hope and pray that there wouldn't be any other questions, but who knows?
The numbers on there haven't really changed at all from what was on here from back in September. As far as the budget to expense column, that hasn't changed at all.
So this hasn't updated?
Budget to expenses, expense part of it hasn't changed. How the levy and how that got shifted around, that changed a little. But
So the proposed levy 2013 column here is reflected by this.
But the
What are you saying?
like
Was this September? Or I mean, this?
in September, the budget to expenses 2013. That was that's what we expected the expenses to be in 2013. The fact that we are not levying 20,000 to go into the community center now means it's going to have a minus at the end of the year if we spend, because we still expect that we might be spending 20,000, maybe, because there's still expenses up there. There's still stuff to be done. There's still things, EDA expenses are still staying the same, but you're not putting any money into the fund. It's living off the fund.
So it draws down.
Same way with library. Their expenses stayed the same, but they're using their fund balance instead. So the basic, what we expect to have to spend hasn't changed. It's just been shifted around a little bit as to where the revenue is going to be applied.
I think Councilmember Bunky's point is the full council's not seeing the line item expenditure report until tonight.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I thought that was the purpose of the subcommittee. Doesn't negate the fact that you probably would like to have seen that expense report earlier. And I think we talked about doing that like July, August of next year, and then having a subcommittee to work between preliminary and final, and trying to get a little bit more clarity to decision process as we go forward.
Yeah, there are several thousand line items here.
Right.
And
There's 4 hours worth.
And I appreciate the time that was spent going over it, but it also makes me wonder just a little bit, if there was that much time and line by line, you found $22,000 or that what got shifted to bring it down to the 740 figure.
Could you find 40,000, 22,000, 27,000?
I guess that's what I'm wondering.
Right.
What were some of the other items that were discussed and were ruled out? You mentioned, some capital improvement. You mentioned some operation categories that was felt.
Staffing in public works was the big issue that we probably talked about an hour.
At least an hour.
About where we were at staff-wise and what the proposed budget was indicating. Again, we're just asking for a number to levy. How that spread can be changed by the council at any time, because as you'll notice, there's other items in the agenda for today to discuss where some of those specific funds would be allocated towards. Because we expect, you know, decision to be made on those items in particular. We talked quite a bit about equipment, we talked about projects that we were looking at, that were coming up for next year, making sure that we felt that we were, had the proper resources to accomplish those, whether they were street projects or some utility projects.
And if by chance these expenses aren't as high as anticipated, it would just mean we would be able to build up our fund balance a little bit more. As it is now, we're looking at only adding 34,000 to the general fund balance. That's not very much.
But it's a start.
What is it by, as a percent? What would it change our 11% from the last audit to?
Was it 20?
In May or June,
I
whenever.
thought we were looking at like a 20%.
I'd have to do the you would
Get it up to 20.
We were shooting for 20, and then we were gonna try to do, 40 to 50. Over, that fund wasn't depleted in 1 or 2 years. We didn't feel that it would be appropriate to fill it back up that quickly either. Of course, if we don't have the expenses, then
Great.
there'll be more money in that fund.
Same thing here, we talk about in-house projects, Corps of Engineer, Bodemo stated, but taking care of project in-house will save approximately $251,000 of $534,000 in expenses. Items like that were discussed.
Right, we did talk about that quite a bit. Although, again, the intention on that project is to secure as much, if not all of it, from the DNR.
Yeah.
Because, as you'll notice, we didn't budget any money for that, other than tree removal and things that we feel we could do on our own.
So like on the electric utilities for the city hall here, last year they were 5,000, this year they're 10?
Well, for the city hall line item, if we're down there, it's gonna be a whole different ballgame if we have that whole big building down there.
That's why we added to it.
So we added to it because it's a different kind of heat and it's much bigger space.
And those were just rough numbers that our engineer thought we should plug in.
Any other questions?
Where exactly is that, Roger? That's interesting, because it should never cost, what, $850 a month for electricity down there.
Second page. About a little over halfway down.
Electric utility.
Well, that includes sewer, water, and electric. And, all the expenses that are on an electric bill.
So it says electric utilities.
Yeah, but that's the code for, when you get your light bill, you have sewer and water charges on there. So that the sewer and water charges are on that one item also. For all city buildings, Because every city building has to pay sewer, water, and electric, just like a business in town does.
So then another interesting thing, why is the gas utilities less?
Because it's
It's more efficient
down there, it's a different kind of heat. It's
in Florida.
in-floor heat, and we looked at what it was costing the liquor store, but of course they have all kinds of coolers and things going, so you had to factor that out and everything.